The Outpost is directed by Rod Lurie and is based on the 2012 nonfiction book called The Outpost: An Untold Story of American Valor by Jake Tapper. About and it stars Orlando Bloom, Scott Eastwood, Caleb Landry Jones, Milo Gibson, who's the son of Mel Gibson, and among others. And this tells the story of one of the pretty much one of the bloodiest battles of the War of Afghanistan that was called the Battle of Kamdesh, which basically dealt with the story of our United States soldiers, and there were two Latvian military advisors who battled a force of basically so many, like almost 400 something enemy insurgents in Afghanistan. And they were basically at this small outpost when this had happened. And it pretty much becomes a story of them having to survive at this outpost that's taken place in like around these mountain type areas. And it, in a way, it pretty much it spans in just a period of one day, as the events unfold. And it's a matter of
A story of surviving and staying alive, so to speak.
yeah.
And it's really a story about one of the most dangerous outposts in both wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, due to the location, which to me, I agree with the soldiers in the beginning of the film bitching about it, because I honestly question who in the fuck in our government thought that was the smartest idea to tuck this fucking base, this outpost, in the middle of three major mountains chains where the enemy can look down and easily spot you and snipe you, and you can't see them up there. That was the dumbest fucking thing. And that was the thing. It was called the most deadliest outpost out of both wars. And I questioned why our government thought that was a smart fucking idea. But yeah, it's a famous outpost. It's on like kind of like the Afghan and Pakistan border, so to speak, in the mountain chains. But yeah, it's considered one of the bloodiest days that we ever fought against the Taliban, because unlike a lot of the Taliban fights that we went with, where Taliban attacked us in kind of like small insurgencies, this was the first time they actually bum rushed a base of ours, and they outnumbered us 100-1. We were heavily fucking outnumbered.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, and now here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by uh, Rod Lurie, who actually I've seen he actually has done a couple movies that I've recognized. That one of them I haven't seen, but the other one he did called The Last Castle, which came out in 2001. It had Robert Redford and James Gandolfini. It was that prison movie that came out that I remember. I think it was a military prison movie. Yeah, that I saw, and I remember enjoying that one. And this movie, I actually will admit, like I just got a chance to watch a preview of it like a week ago or so when it was about to come out. And this was actually my first time hearing it. And I only knew about it because I saw basically some of the cast members involved, including Orlando Bloom and Scott Eastwood and then others. And so I'm into a lot of, military movies like this that deal with like, real life wars and stuff. And so it was kind of given that, if this movie, because of the pandemic, it was going to originally come out originally at a Southwest Festival earlier this year, but they had to cancel the festival due to the COVID-19, and basically the movie got select on video on demand. And I'll be honest, this is actually one of the few war films that, while it's was released on demand, it really could have made a theatrical release because it really felt like one.
Yeah, I think this movie after the war, after the test festivals, it was gonna be a actual release, kind of like what we get with Greyhound and all the other ones that are coming out. And again, the COVID-19 was one of those types where we find the film, they release the trailers, and then they release the movie quick. Me and Justin said that about 20 times so far this year. It's the same subject. We got it, the trailers, watched it real quick, boom, it's out already. So it's kind of like a bum rush. That's what we're seeing a lot with these films today. So this was one of those other ones. And I watched trailers, and I didn't know, I didn't really dig in deep to it because I was afraid it was going to come off like a lot of the generic ones me and you've seen lately. But I was like, you know what? I've heard mixed, but I've heard a lot of positive things about this movie. So I'm going to give this a watch. And, I'm a big fan. I like Scott Eastwood. I wish the guy can get a bigger career. I think he can. But I was like, all right, it's got a good cast. I'm going to give this a watch. And then I heard it was about the Battle of Kamdesh or wherever that place was, about the famous, notorious, dangerous outpost. So I was like, all right, I'm going to definitely watch this. And, upon seeing the film, I will say that I liked it. I do have flaws with this film, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But starting with my pros, I will say that everybody in this film I felt was really good. They did their job. Just the cast was great for who they were portraying, except for one particular person. I'll get into that in a second. The two that to me that stood out the most was Scott Eastwood. And he's kind of actually playing more of a lead man in this one, which I enjoyed. I thought he did very well for that. But I also liked, it was kind of like who I liked better because the guy that was in Get Out, I forgot his name,
Caleb,
the actor, he's been in a lot of, Caleb Jones. And I feel like the dude's an underrated actor. I liked since Get Out that he is really getting a lot of these bigger films. He's not settling for like cheap in shit. This guy's in like 3 billboards. He was in Get Out, and he was one of the highlights of Get Out, in my opinion. And he's been in so much good shit lately. And I'm glad that he's getting all these roles. And he usually plays the same character as the fuck up, but I loved his closer. Like he pretty much becomes the Andrew Garfield type of guy in this film, where he is the fuck up, but then there's a purpose of his character that has a good closure, which I really enjoyed. And honestly, that last bit in that scene with the psychiatrist really, I thought, stole the movie overall in that scene alone. And I find him the best part of the movie. And I felt for the guy. I mean, I feel so sorry for him. And the way he portrayed the emotions of PSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, I thought he nailed that fucking shit to the T. He did good. I want to see more films. He feels really authentic. He does. He's not overly plastic like a lot of actors are, and for their looks, he's really authentic. I can believe this guy in some of this shit he's in. So I really like this guy. I thought he stole it. Everybody else was fun. They did their job except for one. Gotta complain because unfortunately the one I'm gonna bitch about's a famous actor. He's an A-lister, but
I agree. Like the guy, that's what I'm saying. Like Caleb Landry Jones, I thought he was not only he carried like the most emotional weight to the story that I liked, especially toward the end. But I also, and like you're saying, he plays pretty much the Andrew Garfield equivalent of like Hacksaw Ridge. How in that film, he's considered the one that's trying to bring the team down and stuff at first, but then he becomes a lot braver as the movie goes along and stuff. And I really appreciate that they went with that with his character, with that, and also the real life guy that he played, because real life guy was like that by basically sending weapons and stuff and to the troops and everything, and assembling the weapons and everything, or bringing the ammo to like the guys and stuff. But anyway,
he's the grunt that fucks up a lot, so they have him being the weapons guy and bringing bullets for them, and they basically make fun of him for not being brave, and that actually plays into the effect later where everybody's got to be a part of this battle at the end, and he shows not only bravery and courage and stuff, but his character and how much he appreciates every life in this film. Like the part where he cares for this guy that was giving him shit in this movie, and his goal is to save that guy at all costs, despite him running into fucking fire, the Taliban shooting everywhere. He doesn't give a fuck if he dies. And I really thought that brought his character up. People were looking down on him. Now he was one of the most courageous guys in that battle. So,
absolutely. And I also got to appreciate going with the rest of the film. I really got to really commend them for the direction that they took with this. By a lot of the camera work that they give, it's very equivalent to in a good way, so to speak. It's like it's like matching filmmaking camera work techniques that they do, like with Children of Men. How you have very long takes and you have unexpected stuff that comes out of nowhere that sets the mood, and it does it in a good way to where when the shit goes down, it comes out of its time right to where it pretty much you're shocked when it happens. And I got to really appreciate the very gritty feel that the director was going for by making it feel kind of reminiscent of like movies that deal that guerrilla style filmmaking in war, like Black Hawk Down and 13 Hours, on that kind of that very gritty level, so to speak.
I did like the whole 13 Hours look to the film, where it was kind of like really dark, but yet you would get presence of the sun in the back, where it was kind of like a blue and orange filter kind of feel, where it felt like they were in the valley and you could feel the sun just above. Where I did love also the camera work you said was awesome. There was parts where it was almost like first person and just shit just blowing out everywhere. You're just expecting something just to happen, and a lot does, and it just fucking sends them flying everywhere. That was done well. The Children of Men of the camera was really like that was a smart move by the director.
Yeah.
I will say that another thing I liked was the vulnerability, and what I mean by that is I liked the what's really scared me was the presence that the enemy is up in the mountain somewhere. His presence is there. They make it known with their religious pouring, what they do in real life, when they do the music to their god, the Islam music, and how they do their prayers. And they're there, and you just don't know where. And I think that brings a lot of the scare factors. And honestly, that would creep me the fuck out, knowing that they are above me somewhere and I could be shot any fucking moment. I loved a lot of scenes that went from quiet to just like discussing with a friend, making fun of them, talking soldier talk, and next boom, 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 just like I don't know,
Yeah.
it's like whoa, that made me jump.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to appreciate really on that because it does set the stakes pretty high on that. And one of the other things I got to admit too is the production, the production design that they go for by giving it the bases themselves. From what I've heard from veterans, this movie got a lot of positive feedbacks from veterans that were in the war, talking about how the bases looked and everything, and a lot of the authentic look that they were going for, and a lot of the commands they were using in a lot of scenes. I like the really authentic, gritty feel that they were going for in this setting.
The way that they're really communicating in military language, and how the operation went down and how they held off the outpost look, and how the soldiers feel like normalized soldiers that were over there, from what I've been told, because I got a lot of family that did fight in that war, both Afghanistan and Iraq. I liked how they made it as gritty as possible like that, and despite having some pretty big name actors in this film. And I did thought that I do commend the director. I praise the director for his determination to make this look like a war movie and not so much as a Hollywood war movie, which are
Yeah.
two different things in my opinion. And there's some things I will say that I liked, especially my highest praise of the film is the third act, and it's a long act. And this act, I'm glad it lasts long, because technically, this is what the movie is meant, and it was when we get to the bloodiest battle, the day the Taliban stormed us, and it is nerve wracking. It's long. It's bloody. It's I mean we this is the only part of the war in real life that we lost so many fucking men in one day, in one little outpost. We usually pretty much dominate, hold off anywhere else. Here, we kind of lost and underestimated our enemy a little bit, and that we learned our lesson, because the guy who's kind of helping us, he's with the Afghanistan military. He warned us. We don't believe him. Well, fuck, you're crying wolf. You've said that every day. And sure enough, he warned us. We didn't listen, and that's what happened in real life, apparently. And they fucking stormed us. And man, is this long I mean, this part lasts what do you say, 25, 30 minutes? Like, it
More
does
than that,
not
probably about
stop.
30, maybe, I'd say about 30, 45 minutes,
Uh,
about 30, 40 minutes at most, maybe.
I mean, you would have thought the Germans were alive. Like, we were fighting a legit fucking army here.
It,
I mean, we lost control completely with this. I'm seeing buildings blowing up. I mean, fucking all these soldiers. We lost everything in this outpost to the point that we're running out of ammo. There's people who are having to stick themselves with a syringe to try to give their friend blood so he doesn't bleed out. There's just chaos. It's open chaos of just nonstop shit. Just you're seeing people's legs getting blown off, arms getting severed. I mean,
yeah,
it's insane.
it's almost, it almost reaches the equivalent of the final battle that we have, the final climax that we have with Sam Pryor Ryan on that level. Like as far as scale and as far as like losing people left and right, and the enemy keeps on coming. That's how fucking like epic it gets in this, and they really don't hold back on it. Because also, much like with like this movie in like 13 hours, they show a lot of the casualties and people that are wounded and stuff, and they go into pretty good fucking detail with it, and it
Yeah.
shows a lot of the great realism they were going for.
Another thing that kind of blew me away, and I looked up on it. This is actually one of the only outposts. Also, not only it was heavily hit and was stormed the way it was, but the enemy actually breaches into our facility and starts fucking killing us left and right. And that's
Yeah,
the Taliban doing that. I mean, we don't ever lose like a post that's this bad. And when they storm through and they're already inside the facility, like we are, and it becomes more hand to hand thing, it's pretty fucking bloody, man. It gets really gruesome. I mean, this is where you start you don't know who you're gonna lose, because personally, I don't know who's who in real life, because I know vividly of the story. I don't know it verbatim, so I wouldn't know who was going to die or not. But yeah, it got fucking incredibly intense, to like edge of my seat type of intense. So I really enjoyed that. So that being said, getting them out now, my pros, and this is where I have a lot of problems with this film. It's mainly the first half of the film. Let me get out real quick. The actor I'm talking about happens to be Orlando Bloom. I believe I've complained about this guy before. I don't know why we're casting him to play American role, mainly American soldier. I think we've done this before. And this actor is a good actor, don't get me wrong, but he can't do American fucking accents worth the fuck. He
no,
can't. And he did not even, he was one of the rare ones that didn't even look like the main dude, because they have a montage at the end where they show the real guy and the actor. And he doesn't even look like the guy, let alone you got a guy who can't even have the American accent down.
yeah,
Oh
and
my God.
yeah, I knew
Yeah.
that from the trailers that was going to be a problem because now keep in mind this isn't. I remember seeing Black Hawk Down when he also played an American soldier, but that movie it seemed like back then, because that was one of his earliest films, he was able to at least kind of maybe have a dialect for that movie, possibly to bring the accent in. But with this one, I couldn't tell him where the fuck he was supposed to be from, whether he was from New York. Well, the accent he was going for, because it sounded like a mix of his own accent mixed with like someone from, like from like north, from like the northern states or something. I couldn't really identify it.
I can't. I have to look up who the guy he was playing, where the guy's from. But his British accent was just slipping so bad in this film. Almost every line that came out of his mouth, I caught the British accent. I was
Yeah,
like, "Sorry, man, you were really miscast, and you're a big actor, and I respect you on a lot of films. You just didn't need to be in this movie. I'm sorry."
yeah.
And yeah, getting in that was my only casting problem I had. Now get into other issues I have. One of my other biggest issues, probably my biggest issue of this film. This film's first half, up until the third act, and they fixed it completely. Two things are wrong. The editing is horrific for a while. It is horrific. And I will admit, I was getting lost a lot. Because we get the scene where it feels like, I think Scott Eastwood, I think there was people in that helicopter, like they're about to they're new to the base. And then the next scene, boom, it's like they've been there months and their beds there. They've been there for a long, long time. So it's like, I'm kind of lost here, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
I
it
got you.
happens like a movie where, because it does this weird shit where we're doing chapters. And I guess that's to indicate all the commanders that took over and who were killed, or they just left their post and went to another job. And when they do that, it comes off in wrong places. Like there's scenes where like Orlando Bloom's character, he's up in the mountains. They got to take this thing, do this mission. They got to take this thing. Something happens, and then the next scene, everybody does their little prayers, sad thing, and then it's all lollygagging and just bullshit. And then there's parts where like they're shooting, and then the next thing you know, they're making phone calls to their wives, or they're joking and it's nighttime. And it's like it cuts so wrongly, like in the middle of the fucking shootout. Next you know, it's like, okay, next scene. And
Yeah.
this comes to why I think it happened like this. Far better than this film I'm about to mention. There's a film me and Justin saw called 1517 to Paris, done by Clint Eastwood, which is by far Clint Eastwood's worst movie of all time. And that problem with that film was trying to take a situation that happened so quickly, and they needed to make a whole fucking story to get to that point. While this one is a little bit more lengthier fight, they still needed to build a movie to build it. You have to have your build up to get to that. And I feel like that's what they were kind of doing a little bit, where it was just like rinse, repeat, commander down. Now another commander comes in. Same shit, kill, hide, shoot, hide. I mean, I was kind of bored.
Yeah, I can agree. The editing is pretty lost in a lot of play at the beginning, especially where I was kind of lost where we were at because the way scenes were just kind of just we kind of just were jumped into the beginning too with them going to, which I understand you're wanting to just jump straight into the action and everything. They were going for more of that whole realism part, but at the same time it's like some of the scenes that they craft, like how certain characters at one location, it's not going to spoil anything, but let's just say there's also a point where an event happens where someone dies, and the way it's edited, it feels kind of like off. It's almost like we're kind of missing something to lead up to it. And then there's other scenes where characters are just kind of like, are all of a sudden here, or they've been here for a while and it's not really established. It's just kind of all over the place. And also, like you were saying, the way that the movie kind of jumps back and forth with them, like it can be very rinse and repeat the way it is because you're going to have a lot of scenes where they're at the barracks, they're at the base a lot, where they're just waiting for the enemy and stuff. It almost, in a way, it almost becomes like if you took like Jarhead and and you added more battle scenes in that film, or if you did the sequels
Yeah.
to that movie, but way better because I heard those sequels sucked.
Yeah. But yeah, like some of the stuff that were just popping in, like that part where like one guy gets blown up on a bridge, and that guy's really traumatized by the brain matter that lands in his mouth and stuff. Then like the next scene, he's kind of going nuts, and then the next scene it's like it jumps so quickly. Like you see him traumatized, then they got to get him out of there because he's not right from what happened, and then the next scene we're back to another problem I have, which I'm actually 50-50 on this. And has a lot to do with comedy. Now, I do know my friends and cousins that were in that war did say that one of the things to cope throughout the war is a lot of downtime. And a lot of downtime, you talk shit to each other. It was just a lot of have fun and games. You've seen it in so many war films like Jarhead. And while I did find some of it really good, funny, the shit talking, I did kind of felt like they overdid it later on in the film because it was in some wrong parts of the movie. Like
Yeah.
there's parts where they're getting shot, and while they're getting shot, he's like, "Hey, Doc, hey, what's up?" He goes, "Hey, what was it? If we before you die, what man would you like to fuck?" Shit like that, just kind of, eh.
Yeah, I can agree. That did really seem like it took the mood out of the film necessarily. So I can agree with that. Like it just really felt off in from the way they just spout out certain lines and the way they had some of the downtime parts. But but yeah, other than that, though, I mean, I still give them a lot of respect from what they went with though with the overall film because much like this is to me this is the far better equivalent to what 1517 to Paris did with having good intentions but also making a better like outcome of the actual real life event that took
Yeah.
place. And I
There's one thing you are leaving out that I do got complain. Uh, I will admit that a lot of the explosions in some scenes were really bad CGI on quite a few scenes. The explosion parts, like parts where we blew up, like they were showing them actually bombing the Taliban. You can see the computer generated, where you kind of see the smoke kind of generated in there, and like the bodies, the way it was awfully done, like the way it was, the way that they used it, the explosions, not the
yeah.
explode, scare the people. Like whenever you're just shocked and all by the explosion that happened to the guy you're following, is
Mhm.
cool. It's when they're doing like you get to see more like how the Taliban's dying and shit. It's like, oh yeah, that looks fucking fake as shit.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like I did not care for. But other than
It's
that, I don't want to spoil too much of the movie, but I will say that I enjoyed it, and I did like the montage it did at the end with paying respects to the real people. And not only that, it's also pretty cool that it's one of the only wars in 50 years where two people lived and got the Medal of Honor, which was
mhm.
pretty cool. And
Yeah,
not to mention everybody that survived. So
absolutely. It was very patriotic, and I enjoyed a lot of the respect that they gave to it. And in a way, it's basically how the equivalent it was. Well, I kind of like this one a little more than this one was, but only on certain aspects and that I liked. This kind of makes the like a it's kind of on the same level as like 12 Strong was. How that film was well intentioned, it pays respect to the military, and while that film really struggled a lot as far as its stakes, this one upped it a lot better than this one. So with that one, I give this one a little more by a point with that. So with that being said, I'm going with a high average Joe on the Film Freaks meter for this one.
yeah, this one I'm gonna go with the high average Joe on the Film Freaks Minute as well on this one.
Fair enough. For those of you who have also seen The Outpost, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you in our next review. We'll see you later.